In today's video, I am sharing some farmhouse fall DIYs that are modern and rustic. Welcome to Creative by Nature DIY and Decor. My name is Donna. For our first DIY, you're going to need an artist panel that is made out of wood, and this one is 12 by 16. I was inspired by this piece that I saw on Zulily. It's from the Kendrick Home collection, and I just fell in love with it, and I knew that I could recreate this in my own style, so I'm going to be creating a fall look for less. I flipped my panel upside down, and I'm going to give the frame a coat of this walnut gel stain I got from Decor Art, and I'm going to be using a makeup sponge to apply this stain. So I got my wood panel from a store called Dollarama. I have seen these in some other stores as well. You can also purchase them online. So I'm going to give the entire frame portion a coat of the walnut stain and allow it to dry. Next, I'm going to be using some painter's tape, and I'm butting it right up against the edge of the frame and pressing it up. I wanted to protect the stain coverage that I did, as I'm going to be painting the inside of our wood panel with some paint. Once your painter's tape is all in place, you can then apply your craft paint. So I'm using this dark gray that I picked up from Michael's, and it's the same shade as seen in our inspiration piece. So I'm going to give 2 to 3 coats of this paint and allow it to dry well. So this is the first coat of paint. I am going to go in with a larger brush and apply some more paint, and I'm going to apply the paint in longer, smoother strokes and then allow it to dry. Once our canvas board is all painted and stained, you can then add your hanger. I am finding the center here, which is 6 inches, and then I am going to be placing my hanger right into the frame. My frame is about 1 centimeter thick, and I just wanted to make sure that my nails go into that part, and then it's ready to be hung on the wall if you desire. So I wanted to create that matte look that was in our original inspiration piece. So it was kind of a bit more, I'd say, like a satin or an eggshell kind of a look. So I knew that I could achieve that look using some decoupage glue. So I'm just applying it with some paint with a paintbrush, and then I'm going to be taking a plastic card and smoothing it out just so I don't have too thick of a layer. Allow that to dry well, and then you can move on to the next step. I went into Cricut Design Space and I uploaded an image that I had that I wanted to use. I removed all the line work, and that left me with this silhouette. And I loved how this looked. It reminded me of seed pods. In the inspiration piece, I had a flower, and I didn't quite think that it looked kind of fall-like. So now I sent my image to my Cricut Joy machine, and I'm cutting it out on some matte white permanent vinyl. I'll, of course, remove this vinyl from my mat, and then using some transfer tape, I'm figuring out the placement first, flip it back over so that the sticky side is down, and then burnish my vinyl onto my board. Now, I haven't done too much vinyl work, and I did not burnish my piece well enough, so it did start to lift in spots, but of course you can just go back in and burnish it some more until it stays. Once your image is in place, you can remove the transfer tape, and it's ready to be hung on your wall. I love this. This is something I was so excited to try, and I'm so pleased with how well it turned out. Perfect for a modern farmhouse look. For our next DIY, I am using this styrofoam pumpkin that I picked up from Dollar Tree last year. I removed the stem, and I'm just creating a larger hole at the top. So this is the inspiration piece. I found a bark covered pumpkin at Wayfair, and it was $37.99. And of course I knew I could recreate this, as I love to forage birch bark. So I dove into my stash. But first I needed to give this pumpkin a coat of just some cream paint. You could use white as well. I didn't want the orange to really stand out, and I gave this pumpkin 2 coats of my paint. Once your pumpkin is all nice and dry, it is time to add the birch bark. So I'm using some thinner pieces that I had torn off of my larger pieces that I had in my stash. This is birch bark that I had foraged from the forest last year. I left it in longer strips just to make it easier to cover the pumpkin. So I'm using some hot glue to apply the pieces of birch bark onto the surface, and the hot glue did not melt my styrofoam, which was awesome. So you can also apply the glue straight onto the pumpkin and then apply your birch bark. I found that using the longer strips of birch bark also made it easier and faster to cover the piece. So if you look at our inspiration piece, you could see that they used a lot of small and textural pieces. So once I had my pumpkin covered, I started to add some small pieces that had lots of texture on them, as you can see here. And then that gave it more of the look that we were going for off of our inspiration piece. So now I'm just going to add some thinner pieces of birch bark to the bottom. You could also use a piece of felt or a fabric, use whatever you desire. I had these nice thin pieces, so that's what I chose to use. So now it's time to decorate the top. I am going to be using a larger stem piece that I had in my stash. I picked it up from a dollar store. I have some pine cones again from my stash. I'm adding a little bit of Spanish moss, and I'm using some florist wire and brown florist tape to create my tendrils. So you want to wrap the wire with the tape, and you want to twist and allow the heat from your fingers to melt the wax that's on the tape, and that allows it to hold together. You're also pulling on it gently and twisting at the same time. Once you have it covered, you'll then cut your wire into 3 pieces, and then you can use that for tendrils. I like to create tendrils by wrapping the wire around a pencil, as seen here. Make sure you leave a straight edge to apply it to your project. So I am using some Spanish moss just to cover up some of the mechanics you see there on the top of my pumpkin. And I just really like that rustic look that Spanish moss gives. And it also just adds a little bit more of a high-end look. So once that's in place, you can then add your stem, generously apply some hot glue to the bottom, and put the stem into place. Now I'm going to add the pine cones that I had. Again, that was what was in our inspiration piece. You could add anything you like. I already had these pine cones, so I really like that look. And then I'm also going to add my tendrils. Again, just use some hot glue on the stem and push them into place. Once you have your tendrils all put into place, it is ready to display on a shelf. I absolutely love how this turned out. I love the rustic high-end look that this has. Perfect for that rustic farmhouse look that I absolutely love. As always, I love to know which fall DIY was your favorite. For more inspiration, you can check out this video here to the right, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye!